Welcome everyone to another health and safety podcast run by EMA. My name is Kevin Chambers, and we're really pleased that you've taken the time to join us today. Today I have a wonderful guest. Her name is Becki Abbott. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you.
Our topic today is around co-designing of learning for people with respect to health and safety. But before we get into the topic, just tell us a little bit about your journey to how you've got to where you are now in your career as a health and safety professional.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting career, and I think most health and safety professionals sort of come from a different career and move into health and safety, and I'm no different to that. So I started my career as a teacher, taught for about 30 years in various schools, ended up at a private school in Auckland, DIO, and my introduction to health and safety was really looking at and organising all of the outdoor education and recreation for the school. So we used to have sort of about 1,200 girls going off-site for a week all over the North Island. I was dealing with all the contractors, with adventurous activities, regulations and things like that. So that was kind of my first touch. I'm a real outdoorsy person myself, so I've always sort of had safety on my mind. There were some moments in time, the Mangatapopo tragedy. We also had, there's some other, St Kent's College actually had another, in their production, they had a terrible incident there with one of their students as well. And those were quite sort of fundamental moments in the education sector that really kind of changed the course of health and safety. So anyway, throughout my time, I sort of moved more into health and safety, not just sort of outdoor education, trained through EMA, did the Diploma course, which is fantastic, and found myself in a full-time position at DIO, sort of collaborating with other health and safety professionals throughout New Zealand in the education sector, which was great. Over a period of time, thought I needed something a little bit different, applied for an operations job at health and safety at Auckland Council, was successful in that, and our school is kind of like a small city, and then Auckland Council is like a very large city. So I was kind of doing the same work, but on a massive scale. So
you've been there, I think, about 3 years now.
Yeah, about 3 years now, and sort of transitioned to my current role, which is Head of Health and Safety and Wellbeing at Auckland Council.
Just want to go back to the diploma, just reminding you that you were one of the fastest learners ever to achieve the diploma. And for our watchers today, I think, this is inspirational. You did it quicker than, I think, perhaps across all the years we've been running, only one person did it faster than you.
Oh, do I get a prize for that?
Well, no, because she was in the same course as you.
Oh, damn it.
But yeah, look, I mean, I'm really pleased, from a professional level that was able to open up doors for you.
Absolutely.
And, you now have a big role. A big role. How many staff have you got reporting to you?
Yeah, so there's 42 in our team, which is probably one of the larger teams. We've got a big change this year too with the transport reform, so likely to sort of increase the staffing at the end of the year. So a huge role. Right.
Well, that perhaps leads into today's topic a little bit. Legislative changes, bylaw changes, addition of staff means that there's going to be training going on.
Absolutely.
And obviously with your background as an educator, you'll be heavily involved in that. So today's topic is around co-design and learning. We all know that training is a part of ensuring that health and safety is ensuring that there are good health and safety outcomes in our workplace. So tell us a little bit about this idea of co-design and learning. Where would you like us to take that?
Yeah, I think we should probably talk about sort of the shift from designing for people, designing training for people, for your workers, to designing with them. And I think that's the key, right? And it's quite a fundamental shift. So that's certainly the journey for me and my team. I think my education background has obviously helped with that. I don't need any convincing that that's the right way to go. I've obviously had some really good results from delivering that way. So that's integral in how I work with my team and how we service our staff.
So what does it look like in practice then?
Yeah, so multiple things. I think the key to it is about building relationships in the first place. You've got to know your kaimahi, your workers, and you've got to know their work as well. And that's not just saying hi and turning up and having a cup of tea with them and those sorts of things too. It's actually doing the work with them so you really understand the work. And until you do that and ask really curious questions to ask why things happen in a particular way,
Yep.
in a particular order. You need to understand the context of the work. What are those sort of external pressures on them? What are their priorities? Those sorts of things. Until you know that, it's really hard to design or co-design learning for them to ensure that sort of continuous improvement model.
And if the work changes for whatever reason, maybe there's different products, services that are being used. There's now different staff. Perhaps, a lot of intellectual property is gone because someone's perhaps retired or something like that.
Yeah.
You've got some new staff coming in. So then when it comes to sitting down and doing the design, you've had a lot of these conversations, perhaps informal conversations to try and understand exactly what the work is, the nature of the work that they're doing.
Yep.
And now you're right, okay, so we're going to put some training in place here. How does that work then with the potential learners and their supervisors?
Yeah, well, not only do you need to understand the work, but you need to understand the learners, right?
Yep.
And sort of in this day and age, we need to be very conscious of different ways that people learn, right?
Yep.
So neurodiversity is super important.
Yes,
so
it is.
It's understanding that as well, and then ensuring that you have diversity of people in front of you, so you can understand how they learn, what would be best for them, and perhaps even, and this is sort of what we've been working on too, is having a bit of a kit of tools or learning resources, so people don't have to just go to this one-hit wonder, because it's not always going to hit the right mark. Some people are visual learners, some people are doers, some people like to listen, some people need things over multiple times. So it's having this range or repertoire of different things that people can pick out at different times. We also know that training or learning in a classroom altogether is very difficult when we've got frontline workers, and they need to be out doing their work.
So it's hard for them to get away from their job.
Absolutely. We also have shift workers. So it's accommodating all of those things, which is really tricky. So again, we go back to this sort of this kit of tools.
So when we're talking about the design, it's not just the outcomes of the learning. In many senses, it's also the logistics of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's lots of things that you need to consider, but I suppose the key is the relationships, and then sitting down and talking to people and asking them what's going to work for you. And we have a range of different things. So we have learning teams, which you'll know about, obviously, and they're sort of a real hot topic in the industry at the moment, and lots of people are doing training and learning. And I mean, learning teams.
Tell us a little bit then, just for some of the viewers that maybe aren't familiar with learning teams. As you say, it's been a hot topic for 3 or 4 years now. So what does that look like in the workplace?
So we do quite a lot of work with learning teams, but they look different for my team as well, depending on sort of, sometimes we do a learning team as part of an investigation.
Okay.
And we'll get some people in a room, a diverse number of people within the room, including leaders who can have some influence and change over the procedures or the way we work. So investigations, we also do them proactively. We try to understand when work is going well. So if there's a success story, we might get a group of people and say, well, why did this work like this? You know, this is a great success for your team. Let's celebrate that, but let's learn from that. And then we'll take that in other places, and how do we share it? And then we might do it when things, post a small incident, or when we're hearing noise around things that are just, sort of, people are putting up brick walls and things just aren't flowing properly. So we hear those sorts of things.
How often would the team get together? How long would the team get together for? Is it a one-off event? This has happened. Let's put a team together. We'll sit in a room for a couple of hours and we'll work our way through it. Or is it something that is ongoing? And it probably depends on the situation.
It does. We have 7,500 staff in all different types of areas. But generally, if we run a learning team, we'd have it over about 3 sessions. And again, we can't necessarily have people in the room for long periods of time. So it's little pockets. And we also need people to go away and have a think about and reflect on what's been talked about in the first one, come back, we give them a little bit of a task. This is what we're going to do next time. And then wrap up and try to come up with some outcomes.
It's nice to have some actions at the end.
That's right. And then we follow that up. So the risk owner is the business or the people doing the work. So what we do is we enable the conversation. We enable them to have some autonomy over how they work and make some changes that they think are going to improve their work and make their work safer. And then we track that for them and hold them to account,
right,
for want of a better word, so that we can keep things moving.
That's part of the co-design element, no
Yeah.
doubt. Are teams assembled from a wide range of what's the word, roles in the organisation, or is it more that you would get one particular team, maybe the Parks and Recreations team, and they would come together, or is it a mixture of both?
Yeah, we run all sorts of different things, and absolutely we could have, the regional parks team on, let's just say, Long Bay Regional Park. This is a great example, actually. Yep. They were having some real issues with stress and fatigue over the summer break. As you can imagine, our regional parks are just hammered. That's why we quite like the rain on Christmas Day, actually, to be fair. Not so many people. Yeah. But, we have issues with dogs as well, and parking and all of these other things as well. Yep. We have lifeguards there, so we're sort of interconnections with lots of other agencies, and it's high pressure. And we got this team together before the Christmas break, and they're really talking about one of the major issues was how we rostered and how people were on call. So we did a lot of work around that, and we actually literally changed the roster for the whole of the summer break, which was fantastic. That was the outcome of it, sort of the big win. And then they trialled it for the summer. We got together after the summer, and it was an absolute game changer.
Nice.
And now they've implemented that same roster across all regional parks for the whole 6-week summer break.
Wow.
So that's a great example of a really big win. Okay. We also have some other examples where we have the call centre and our animal management staff, and there was a disconnect between the calls that were coming in to the call centre and the way that they interpreted it and the questions they asked of the public who were making complaints or had concerns about wandering dogs and things like that, and how they communicated that information through to our animal management. And there was a different language that was being used. So the animal management officers were being put at risk because they were misinterpreting the information that came through.
Okay.
So we brought those two teams together. And so we had the best outcome from that is we had this common language.
Yep.
So the animal management officers were able to speak to the call centre and say, these are the questions that you need to ask, and we need to know that information that helps us be safe when we turn up.
Yep.
So that's a big one.
It's a classic case of not knowing what you don't know, right? And finally working out there's actually a gap here.
Yeah.
It's not that people aren't doing their jobs as well as they can. It's more that they're not speaking quite toward each other.
That's right. Yeah, I think everyone's intentions are great, right? No one's trying to, throw anyone under the bus or anything like that. But I can still really remember that moment when I ran this learning team with both of the call centre and the animal management. And there was this light bulb moment. Someone asked a question. And I said, well, talk to me about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
And there was just this stunned silence in the room. It was absolutely incredible. I said, well, why do you ask that question? That's really strange. Or why do you use that word? We don't use that word.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. And now actually both of those teams have a regular monthly meeting.
Yeah.
Sort of like a little HSR group that gets together, and they just make sure that they're all on track. It's such a tiny thing, but it's a huge one. Done that themselves. That was one of the things they decided that they'd keep on doing.
Wow. Sounds like you're still a teacher to me, So I imagine your role is to facilitate these meetings, to make sure that whatever the outcomes are, they're able to work their way through their conversations toward them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose in my current role now, I do less and less of that, which, but I try to keep my hand in. I have operations in my heart, so I find it quite hard to stay in that sort of strategic area. I keep on dipping in, which actually I'm happy with. Yeah. I'm happy to be able to have the opportunity to do that. But I do I set my team up to run in the same way, because that's really important to me, and I know the benefits of the outcome of those.
Right. So we need a good facilitator to run a learning team. Learning team isn't just a one thing. It's several meetings over a period of days and weeks.
Yeah, and good questions.
Meetings, a lot of curiosity, I think you mentioned before. Yep. So what about the size of a learning team? Is there any sort of an optimal range? This is definitely too many. This wouldn't be enough. And then to follow on from that, what about the competencies, the people that are invited? I'm sure that a lot of thought is put into, well, look, we're going to pull a team together. Need these two people and someone from there, but it doesn't matter who it is. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
I think optimum size would be sort of 7 to 10, probably. Any more than that gets pretty tricky to facilitate. There's a lot of voices in the room. Although the animal management and call centre one, there was actually 22 in the room there.
Okay.
So that's why I actually did that one myself, and I had a co-facilitator, which was and we broke off into into little groups first. So you can redesign things if they're not perfect. Two lesser people, you just don't get enough diversity of voice. So diversity is important. You definitely need some people who are doing the work. You need people, if there's like a day shift and a night shift, you need that perspective. You also need some subject matter experts in the room as well. Some health and safety professionals, obviously, which is great. And you also need some leaders, some people who can actually implement or allow the change to happen and be really curious about the conversation that's happening with their frontline workers as well.
The fact that they've been a member of the team means that they're in it right from the start.
Absolutely.
And their role then is, once actions have been sorted out, or outcomes, if you will, go away and start getting them implemented and then monitor how that's gone.
It also just shows the workers that senior managers actually care and they're invested in them and they want things to be right. So that's great.
So your team is well trained up in this. You've introduced it to the council. You've built your team. I think you said there were 42 people. So they'll be talking about it. And here's an opportunity. We should put together a learning team, and I've got some ideas about who it could be. And I think you said that some of them are now facilitating, which is fantastic. What about wider staff? And I don't mean the full 7,000 staff, but what about in wider staff? Maybe in the team leader, middle management, are people there also talking about, this is an interesting situation. I wonder if we should have a chat to Becki and pull a learning team together.
Yeah, look, in pockets where the maturity of health and safety is higher, it's definitely happening. We're doing some training with our HSRs, and we've got 300 and something or other across council. We need more, and we've got a bit of a plug going on for them at the moment. So we're training them as well. We've got some basic models that are available as tools, and we always supply people with that. We've also now in my team, we've employed a training manager. Who is going to, once they've sort of done some in-house work, they're going to be getting out with the business and doing some upskilling and working with the HSRs and things like that as well. So I think it's a maturity thing, and you don't want to throw something at somebody who's not really ready for that or who is going to misrepresent what we're trying to achieve. So, we sort of try to get some champions on board. We look for success there, and then we share that success, move on to the next people. But, there's this... With 7,500 staff, there is natural attrition and a bit of a turnover. So, so we're always redoing.
Okay. I'm going to take a slightly different tack if it's okay. If you feel that I've gone off piece, then please
I'll pull you back.
Pull me back, You're a large organisation. Learning teams makes perfect sense. What about for an organisation that's a bit smaller? Maybe they've got under 50 staff. A lot of people wear multiple hats and stuff like that. I'm not saying learning teams wouldn't be a good approach for them. I'm not suggesting that for a minute. But you're doing it internally. Maybe they're like, we don't really have the capacity. We don't have the capability. We think we need to get an outside resource to come and assist us with this. So what I would want from you is, what type of questions would that organisation want to be asking an outside, whether it's a facilitator or what, the title doesn't really matter, but just so that they could be sure that the concept of what you're running could be scaled down into their organisation. If I've gone off piece, just tell me.
That's all right. Look, I think if you get somebody external in, you really need them to understand what you're trying to achieve. So what is the outcome that you're wanting? And if it is about understanding work, then that's one set of questions, and being curious around the work and the design of work, work is imagined, work is done, and trying to decrease the gap between those two things to reduce risk. So that's one area that you could go down. If it's around culture, health and safety culture, then that's probably another different way of questioning.
Yep.
And that can be sort of when you start going into sort of the principles of HOP. Yep. Around blame and language that we use.
Yep. And we'll be covering that in another podcast.
Yeah.
So the owner of the business has made the decision, we want some outside help to come in. They really need to know what they want.
Yeah.
They need to be clear on what they're trying to achieve, and then articulate that very clearly to the person or the group that's going to assist them.
Yeah, because that will also determine who's in the room.
Yep.
To help as well. Yep. If it's around work design, then we want frontline workers doing the work.
Yep. Yeah, you mentioned that at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, really important.
Yep.
Is there anyone that shouldn't be in the room then? That's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is. Look, from my experience, you have to be slightly careful with having a senior manager who is not right. So who may be, who may kind of push back or not be open to hearing what the workers are really saying.
Yep.
So again, it's back to relationships. So you know that person, and I always prep the leader who's going to be in the room or the manager in that room to say, this is what you might hear.
Yep.
Are you comfortable with that? And this is your role.
And your role is to listen.
Correct.
To listen, maybe ask some good questions, and then afterwards, to help with the implementation.
Yes.
I like the idea that you're kind of priming the leader.
Yes.
Like, you need a leader in there, right? Because you need their buy-in.
Absolutely.
But the fact that before these meetings are run, you're priming them first.
Yes. Yeah. We don't want them to come in and be defensive.
No.
Right? So that's not going to have any benefit to the workers at all.
Right.
So yes, mostly shutting their mouths.
Yep.
Or asking some really good, curious questions is really helpful.
Yep.
And really empowers the staff to have a voice.
Yeah. You also don't want them steamrolling.
Absolutely not.
So again, that's where the priming them is really important.
Yeah.
I think this is an exceptionally important point.
Absolutely.
If you're going to set this system up, choose the people carefully.
Yep.
And some of them will need to be primed first before they come in, so that you have the best chance of success in the meeting.
Yep. And I think that's a really important part with a facilitator too.
Yep.
So, it can't just be anybody. And that's what we talked about earlier on. We really want people to do a learning team or any sort of co-learning and design properly.
Yep.
So if you're going to get the best outcome, you really need to train and your facilitators as well. So that's a skill in itself.
Yeah. Have you had a team that didn't work? And I don't want to focus purely on the negative, but is there a situation where a team was pulled together, but it just didn't work? You weren't able to get some sort of consensus to move forward. And if, obviously I don't want you to mention any names or anything like that, but if you have experienced that, what were the learnings from it?
I did facilitate another joint team design learning team when I was at council as well in my ops role.
Yep. And
again, I facilitated it because I knew it was going to be a little bit tricky.
Yep.
And the first learning team was actually a complete disaster.
Okay.
Absolute complete disaster. There was quite a lot of tension and animosity between the two teams. And I probably underestimated that.
Yep.
And
a little bit of blaming going on.
Yeah, a lot of blaming really. And what we were trying to unpack is how we got, why was there conflict?
Yep. And
it didn't really work in the first one. But what I did was we kind of just shut that down and said, look, we need to do this another time. And we did another one.
Yep.
So we just left it for a couple of weeks. I got the team back together and my approach was different. It was more around unpacking the procedure or the processes for each team that made them have to work in the way that they did.
Yep.
And then when they understood that process, they stopped blaming each other and understood, oh, well, why do you do it that way? That's kind of weird, but I understand now why you have to do that.
Yep.
So I changed tack myself and had to go away and really kind of understand what did I do wrong. And it wasn't necessarily what I didn't do wrong, but I probably didn't do my homework enough to understand the animosity between the team.
Yeah, okay. And it's interesting also, again, along with the other example that you had with the call centre and animal management teams, them not knowing what the other person didn't know.
Yes.
And the learning team is a great opportunity then to unpack that and go, oh, okay, well, now I understand why this is the way it is. Let's see if we can adjust it, amend it so that it works better for both parties.
And I think there's some gold in there, especially in large organisations. Different departments tend to work in silos. So they just go about there every day, and they've got frustrations and all of those sorts of things, in the way that they work.
And look, it's been really great having you with us today. I have heard of learning teams, as a lot of people will have, but haven't had a very in-depth discussion about what they look like in practice. So I've learned a lot. I really appreciate you sharing your stories with us.
No problem.
And hopefully we can have you back sometime.
Absolutely. I'd love to come.
Okay, brilliant. All right. So that's us for today, everyone. Thanks to Becki Abbott for giving us some insights into what learning teams looks like. Hopefully I was able to ask the sort of questions of her that you would have liked to ask her, and that you got value out of today's session.